morning.
Morning.
Hello. So we are going to learn a little bit about the Better Business Bureau this morning, but we're also going to talk about personal branding, which great segue, talking about trust. This is going to be an entire presentation about how to earn trust with your peers, your teachers, professors, anybody in your professional life through your personal brand. So super excited. If you have a notebook, your phone, anything like that, we're gonna do a little audit towards the end of this about your personal brand. So feel free to have that up. You can also just do it mentally if that works better for you. You can go ahead and click. A little bit about me. My name is Jackie. So I've been with the Better Business Bureau for a little over 3 years now. I am the business engagement lead. And to jump in a little bit about the Better Business Bureau, we are a nonprofit. We've actually been around for over 100 years, which is a very long time. We were actually founded right here in Boston, which is really cool, in 1912. And really, we are a resource. We're a resource for you guys. We're a resource for other local businesses, for consumers. We're gonna talk a lot about when you are making a purchase, what makes you make that purchase, and staying protected, things like that. So we work with both businesses and consumers for really you, and to be that resource for you guys now and in the future. If you ever have plans of going off and starting your own business someday, that is what we're here for. We have tons of business resources for you guys. At the end of this, I'll have a little QR code for those resources as well, and everything that we talk about this morning. But we're local, independent, and here for you. That is really the essence of BBB as a whole. So to kick us off talking about personal branding here, I want you to raise your hand if you've ever bought something from the TikTok shop or purchased something because someone online or in your real life influenced you to buy it. Okay, right. You don't have to answer this, but I want you to think about it. What made you or drove you to making that purchase decision? Whether you knew them in real life, whether they were an influencer online, think about what made you trust them enough to make that purchase. That is really what we're going to talk about today when we talk about personal brand. So what is it? What is your personal brand and why does it really matter? I love this definition. Your personal brand is your reputation in motion. So it's who you are as a person, it's who you represent, your reputation in action and in motion. It's how people perceive you, your expertise, your knowledge, your values, who you are, and your presence. It influences networking, your job opportunities in the future, and your professional credibility. So we'll talk a lot about trust, credibility, how you build that. And if somebody were to Google you right now, what would that story say? This will come up again later on in this presentation, and I'll actually have you guys literally open up Google, search your name, and see what comes up. And we'll see what happens, and we'll see what that reflects. But really, when it comes down to your personal brand, it is your skills, it is your values, it is your presence both online and in real life. And that is really what encompasses you and your brand itself. So when you're thinking too about your future and really what you want to be perceived as, that is really where your personal brand is coming from. So why does it matter? It opens doors to internships, jobs, and mentors. The way you're presenting yourself is the way you're going to get access to those things. It helps you stand out in competitive environments. I'll talk a little bit later about finding that unique value that you offer that only you have. And it also shapes how your peers, the people sitting next to you right now, teachers, professors, and future employers will see you as well. So your story is your brand. If you can think about yourself and who you are as a person right now, each of us have our own unique story. That is your brand. The way you're communicating your story is how your brand is being perceived by other people. So really the way you frame it matters because it's going to depend on what environment you're in. Every experience that you have or have had in the past counts. Any classes, projects, jobs, sports that you play, volunteer work, clubs, all of these different things shape the way people see you. And like I said, how you talk about those experiences, they matter. You get to decide how people are perceiving you based on how you're communicating you and your brand. So the focus is on impact, learning, growth. You want to be intentional and reflective in the way that you're presenting your brand, and you, like I said, get to decide what story you're telling about yourself. And it's through things like your actions, choices, and communication, which we will dive into in just a little bit. So we know now what your personal brand is, what it encompasses, what that means, the definition, right? All of those things. When we're thinking about how to grow your brand, or really how to evolve, you're looking at opportunities for your future in leadership roles, student organizations. Those are opportunities to help grow your brand, to gain that experience. Internships, like we're here right now, this is a huge opportunity for you when you're building that personal brand, not just on paper when you're filling out your resume, but the actual physical experience you're getting by showing up here every time you're in this room. Any part-time work, full-time work, volunteering opportunities. Like I said, that online presence. Does anybody here already have a LinkedIn set up? Okay, awesome. That's huge. Definitely sometime in the future, something to have for yourself, because that is a great opportunity to showcase your personal brand. A portfolio, depending on what industry you want to go in someday. Whether it's a creative portfolio, a professional portfolio, anything that really showcases the work that you have to present. And then social media. Networking and mentorship is also a huge part of this as well. That is what's going to open up more doors as you continue to grow that personal brand. All of these different ways are for growth and how to evolve way past the present that you're in right now and the self that you have right now. So one of my favorite examples, does anybody know who Emma Chamberlain is? Yeah. Are you familiar? Okay, had to make sure. She's one of my favorite examples to use because I think she is just a great representation of the evolvement of her personal brand and everything that she kind of encompasses in a relative viewpoint when we're talking about content creation, being online, and building that personal brand outside of the in real life station. So she's a content creator, but she's an entrepreneur. She rose to fame. She started making YouTube videos talking about her daily life, her lifestyle, relatable vlogs, things like that. She's also a brand collaborator, so she's worked with major brands, as you can see there, Louis Vuitton, Cartier, Starbucks. She launched her own coffee brand as well, Chamberlain Coffee. And she's known for authenticity, humor, and a relatable persona. That is what really led her to her success, is because she stayed authentic to herself. She was able to find that uniqueness piece in herself, utilize that, and then make a successful brand out of it. She has millions of followers across YouTube, Instagram, all of her different channels, and she's seen as a trusted voice by her audience. So coming back to that first question, thinking about what made you make that purchase by whatever influencer it might have been, or somebody in your life, recommended a product to you and you bought it because they told you to, because you trust them. She has built this trusted voice through her audience, and it's mostly online. And it's something that we can take both professionally and personally. And kind of finding ways to weave that is what has made her so successful. And diving a little bit deeper into her here, there are 4 different pillars that we're going to talk about: authenticity, visibility, consistency, and value. And so to use her as that example here, authenticity, we know she shares her real opinions, daily life. She stays true to her values, creativity, humor, all of those things. Those are true to her. That is what sets her apart, because she was able to find a way to show up online as her authentic self. She's visible. She's present across all different platforms, channels. Even if you don't have one of these platforms, you don't, podcast, you don't use YouTube, you've probably seen her somewhere along the way on another platform and channel, because she's visible. And she's consistent. She maintains the same voice, the same style, the same personality across all of her different platforms and business ventures that she has. And then lastly, her value. She offers unique experiences. She has her content. She has the podcast, the collaborations that she does. She now has Chamberlain Coffee. And it's something that only she can deliver. So coming back to that unique value proposition that only you have, I'll talk a little bit more about it, but that is such a key theme when we talk about personal brand and how to build your personal brand. You want to think about what you as an individual have to offer and really hone in on that. That is what's going to help you present yourself when you think about your future, your career, anything you want to do professionally. diving into that unique aspect that you have is what's going to help set you apart. And that's really what's made her so successful, and so many others who kind of went down a similar path, which is why we trust them, which is why we make those easy, quick purchases on the TikTok shop, because we trust them right from the start. Their voice, their brand, their presence, it makes it easier for us to then take that next step in the same way where you step into a room and you are meeting somebody for the first time in something that you want to do for your career. You're setting up yourself to really showcase that personal brand right from the start to get that person to trust you. So it's really about building that credibility, finding something that only you can deliver and only you can offer. So let's audit. So we're going to be our own CEOs. So like I said, if you have pen, paper, your notes app on your phone, anything like that, we're going to go through and audit together your personal brands. Some of these questions are honestly kind of heavy and kind of deep because it's really getting to know you as a person and then how to weave that into your professional life. So just start thinking about them, even if you don't want to write them down. But we're going to go over these 5 things. We're going to start with identity and values, talking about who you are as a person. Then we're going to dive into presence and visibility, so how you're showing up. Perception and reputation, what your reputation really is being perceived as. Your value, your story, and then consistency and alignment. So those are the 5 different pillars here that we're going to dive right into, and we're going to kick it off with identity and values. Okay, first one, identity and values. Like I said, we're gonna jump right into it. It's gonna get deep fast. Who are you? What do you stand for? What are my top 3 values? When I was kind of going through and creating this and really thinking about my personal brand, this was a hard question for me to answer. I feel like there are so many things that I do value, but what are my top 3 values that I know I consistently believe in, I consistently act upon? You can go top 5, anything that kind of comes to mind first when you're thinking about who you as an individual and what you value. Once you're kind of thinking about those, even if you have 1 or 2, I want you to then think about any actions, choices, priorities, things that you're doing, and if they reflect these values. It's kind of hard to weave the personal side and the professional side, but that's really what we're trying to do here. So think about different environments that you're in, even here. If you could think about every time you've shown up here throughout the summer, those values that you have your actions here, your choices here, the priorities that you set, the goals that you set at the beginning of this, do they reflect those same values? And then once we have that, the next question that I kind of have mentioned a few times already is, what makes you different from other students? What makes you different from the person next to you? Genuinely. What do you have to offer that the person sitting next to you right now might not, or at least makes you different, offers some uniqueness? Because we all have something. It is like kind of cheesy and cliche, but there is a quote that I really like, and it's, nobody is you and that is your superpower. And it is so true, because nobody is you. Nobody offers the same value that you offer as the person sitting next to you. And sometimes we don't think about that because we do get so lost in trying to keep up with the next person next to us and what they're achieving and what they're accomplishing. But there's so much to us individually that make us unique, that give us that value proposition. So when we go into that professional setting, when we're hitting our next career goal, or we're applying to the job that we really want, our dream job, there is something within each of you that will set you apart. And that is what's helping build our brand. So that is the first part here. Thinking about all of those questions, even if you don't have the answers, start thinking about it when we talk about value and identity. Number 2, we have presence and visibility. So are the right people noticing you? Are the people noticing you for the right reasons? So this is where we'll kind of, if you'd like, go through on either Google or even thinking about when you're looking at your Instagram profile, TikTok profile, whatever you have, from the perspective of somebody that's not you. Think about it from your future employer's perspective. Think about it from a professor's perspective. Take you out of the equation, Google yourself, or look at your profile. Think about the first things that come to your mind if you're looking at it from a different perspective. How do you appear? Obviously, your LinkedIn's going to be a little bit different than your personal social media account, but is your personal social media account public? Are people able to notice and view it? And what is it saying? Aside from that, our online presence, when we're showing up in person, when we're walking through this door every morning, how are you showing up? Are you showing up on time? Are you participating? All of those different things. In class, in clubs, in group projects. Those are really great ways to think about your presence and your visibility to your peers, to professors, to your online community if you have one. And then are you consistently visible in places that matter to your future goals? I think a really great part of this is you can already say yes because you're here right now. I think that's a really great just opportunity to say yes because you've shown up here. But where else? Where else matters to you that you are consistently showing up to and making yourself known? So if you haven't already, like I said, feel free to Google yourself, see what pops up, see what you think, what are your initial thoughts, if anything. Sometimes nothing will come up when you Google yourself, sometimes it's old photos, it's funky, but those are things that people are noticing about you right away. Last time I gave this presentation, it was to a group of entrepreneurship students at UMass Lowell. And we went through and everybody had Googled themselves or looked at social media. And some of the students were like, there's no way, like future employers don't actually look at social media. Like everybody just says that to kind of scare you into looking at socials. And it's true, they are looking at your social media. There have been so many examples between colleagues and friends that I've had where they did not get a job because of how their social media appeared. Whether that was their own personal choice, things that they're doing online, and it's just them as who they are, it didn't matter. The employer still did not hire them and gave the reason that their social media did not reflect the professionalism that they require at that job. And so, as much as people have said it, it is so important to really look at that and see how you're appearing online and checking in on that every now and again. So that is presence and visibility, making sure people are noticing you for the right reasons. Number 3, we got perception and reputation. So how do others see you? Diving in more to the reputation piece of it all. What would a peer, professor, or potential employee say about me right now? You can even answer that if you're taking those notes or writing this down. Put 2 phrases that you think your peer, the person sitting next to you, what do you think that they would say or how would they describe you? Based on the way you've shown up in this environment and any environment with them. Same thing with a professor or your potential employer. What would they say about you? Does that perception align with how I want to be known? I think that's something to, again, think about. The way that you're showing up, the way that you're carrying yourself. Is it in a way that you like, that you want to be known by? And what feedback have I received that can help me improve? I think about, we'll talk a little bit about like recommendations and things like that towards the end of this, but if anybody's ever given you some sort of feedback, whether it's in the classroom, professionally, in a job, anything like that, what feedback have I received that can help me improve? That is so situational depending on what that feedback is. But it's still important to think about because it has to do with how people are perceiving you and what your reputation really looks like to others. So that is number 3, thinking about what other people are saying about you and how it reflects. Number 4 is your value and your story. So we talked a little bit in the beginning about your story. Everybody, all of us, we have our own unique story. How are we communicating what we bring to the table? So when you're going into a job interview, how are you communicating who you are, what your story is, and what you can offer that sets you apart? How can you clearly tell that story of who you are in one sentence? If you haven't already talked about this or kind of dove into this, but your elevator pitch is going to be huge. When you're going into your next job interview, if you want to go off and do your own thing someday and start your own business, you're going to have an elevator pitch that's really explaining who you are, what you do, and what you can offer in less than 60 seconds. Our attention spans are dwindling by the day and by the moment. So being able to get that across confidently right from the start and knowing who you are, that is going to be another superpower that you have professionally. And then your experiences, your resume, your social presence, does it reflect that unique value? I've talked about that a lot. So thinking about all of the things that bring that unique value together, the experiences that you have, the classes you've taken, any sports teams you play on, volunteer work, anything like that you have like that, that's your experience. It's getting written down on your resume, things that you've done, this experience here, anything like that. And then your social presence. So we've talked a lot about your online presence. Everything, bring that together. Does it reflect that unique value that you offer? And also thinking about the skills, strengths, and achievements you want to highlight. Another great piece to write down, to just have right at the top of your mind. What comes up first when you think about what skills do I have? What am I good at? What are my strengths? And what are my top achievements? That if somebody were to ask me what are your achievements, what is the first thing that you want to share that brings value to who you are as a person? So that is number 4, thinking about your value, your story, being able to effectively communicate that to help build that personal brand. And then last one here, we have consistency and alignment. So making sure all of those pieces are coming together and working cohesively. Coming back to the same thing. Online presence, in-person behavior, and your resume, does it all tell the same story? Great thing to think about. We already checked our online presence, we know that. In person, how you're showing up here every single day, and what you have on your resume. Does it all tell the same story? And are actions aligned with your future goals? Again, we talked a lot about that as well. If someone searched me, would the personal brand be clear? So that's really bringing all of those pieces together and creating that consistency and alignment. So it's consistent across all the different channels that you present yourself in, and then making sure it's aligned, making sure it's something that you feel proud of, that you want to represent, and that who you are to your future employer, to your peers, to a future mentor, anybody like that, making sure it's all consistent and aligned. So those are the 5 different pillars here we're thinking about being our own CEOs and auditing that personal brand. Talked a little bit about recommendations, but to dive a little bit deeper, they are super important across all different areas. So we think about a business, they're showcasing customer testimonials to build trust. So if you've ever looked at a Google review to make a decision when you're picking a restaurant or the store you're gonna shop at, you're probably looking at their reviews, you're probably looking at their Instagram page, you're looking for customer testimonials to help you build trust in that business. The same way works with your personal brand. So you're looking for others' words to validate that skill that you have, your work ethic, your character, and who you are. As we already know, these are super important for internships, jobs, networking, leadership roles. You're always going to want and need these recommendations from people you trust, but also so other people can also see and validate the skills, work ethic, and character you carry without fully knowing you yet. Your recommendations, which we'll dive into in the next slide, can come from all different areas, but it comes up over and over again for all of these different roles. So types of recommendations, like I said, we have peer and team. So an example of this, we worked on a project together, and here's what they brought to the table. Worked on a project together, and we accomplished XYZ, and they demonstrated XYZ skill. Really great way to get that recommendation from a peer or a team member. Teacher, professor, mentor, example, strong standout student with a strong initiative and curiosity. Professional internship, delivered results, reliable, collaborative, just quick, easy ways to showcase who you are, the skills that you have from other people's words. Using those recommendations, putting them, sometimes you need them for applications for different programs, sometimes you need them for future career paths, LinkedIn is another great place to showcase those recommendations. The first things that come up when you're looking at your profile are your recommendations listed from other people. So great time to also ask for those and to portray them. People want to give you a recommendation, especially if you've built that relationship with them and you have that connection to be able to ask. People want to do that for you. So definitely ask. Definitely have those recommendations on hand, written somewhere, portrayed somewhere, so that others can also see that part of you as well. Next step, so wrapping this all up here, great news is that you've already checked off the first one. Start thinking about your personal brand now. Here we are. We are thinking about it, we're talking about it, we're working on that now. So great first step. Second step is to make sure you're aligning actions and values and your career goals. So now we can take all of this, the things that we've been thinking about here, and align the actions, the next steps, the things that you're choosing to do with your values and career goals. So those goals might change. We are always evolving. The goals I set for myself 5 years ago are so different than the ones that I have today, but that's the point. Because we evolve, so do our actions, so do our values, and we stay consistent with that throughout the way. And then the third step here is going to be to seek experiences that reflect your best self. So coming back again to that unique value that you offer, what are things that you genuinely enjoy where you find you are your 100% authentic self? It's going to change in different environments. You might not show up here that way every single day. It might be when you're with friends, when you're playing your favorite sport, when you're reading, whatever it might be, whatever it might look like. Find things and seek experiences that reflect your best self. That's going to make it easier for you to show up in environments like this or your next job interview and be able to be authentic and to be yourself, because you're already doing the things that make you feel that way, both professionally and personally. So those are your next 3 steps to think about after today. And to close out here, one thing to really think about, and just a question that kind of encompasses everything when we talk about personal brand, is what do you want people to say about you when you're not in the room? When you leave this room and an opportunity comes up and, somebody says, oh, Jackie would be a really great fit for that role. She is really good at XYZ and has always wanted, a career like that. Somebody being able to talk about me like that and knowing me enough to talk positively when I'm not in the room is going to be a really great key and skill for yourself when you start networking more, when you're showing up in different professional settings. Having your ability to fully portray who you are to others and then being able for them to then communicate back to other people who you are is super important. It comes up over and over again. Networking is just a really great example. I'm sure you guys have talked a lot about the importance of networking. But when you're not in that room or when you leave that networking event, what are people saying about you? That is really what's reflected through your personal brand. It's how you carry yourself, it's how you talked about yourself, it's how you communicated your story. That's all gonna come to the forefront when you're actually not in the room at all. And like I said, to close us out here, we have some resources. That's also my personal LinkedIn as well. If any of you guys have questions or just want to be connected in the future, I am always here, I'm always a resource. BBB is always here and always a resource. We have our young adult resources